My name's Caitlin Lavelle. I'm a staff member at the union. I'm on the development team, but since the pandemic, we've all kind of like pivoted and shifted roles and done a bunch of things that aren't necessarily in our skill set. So I've been kind of taking on some of the like community support work, and that's how I got involved in the Get Out the Vote stuff. And yeah, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Hey, yeah, my name is Maria Corpuz, and I host a conversation called Nite Caps at Outer Spaces. And I started it because I realized that as a young voter, I didn't know a whole lot about the positions that I was voting for. So how could I even know who would be qualified for those positions? And so I wanted to bring together politicians and educators and artists was my other main thing, is as you guys are exhibiting today, how crucial art is to government and policy work and a revolution, if that's what we're looking for. And so I try to lead conversations between all of those different spheres that exist in Omaha, but may not always be in the same room having the same conversations. And so I think that's why they invited me to ask you guys some questions. I'm really excited to get to know all of you guys and what your process was for this exhibit.
Hi, I'm Avry Victor, and I helped with the Get the Vote Out project with some of the art that's on the window. And yeah, super fun process. So I think we'll talk about that later, but good stuff.
I'm Vivian. I am in 6th grade, and I just like to paint.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Mara's mom. That's our dog.
Hi, dog.
Well, no, not me. She's in the background.
And who was that? That was Mara?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks, Mara. What grade are you in?
6th.
6th grade too? Beautiful.
My name's Maria. I'm in 9th grade, and I just like to do art.
Beautiful. What's your medium of art? Do you paint? Do you sketch? All of it?
I like to do all of it.
Why limit yourself? I love it. Okay, so I was thinking we would kind of start with you, Avry, and just dig into a little bit more about you. And the first question I have for you was, is there like a magic moment that you were like, I need to do this project? Or was it more of a gradual, these things were happening and it was a slow realization to develop the depth of this project? And if you could tell me a little bit more about that planning process.
Yeah, well, at first I was like, okay, this is cool. I haven't gotten a ton of like big commissions like that before. So I was like, okay, I gotta do this. But as I was doing it, I thought it was really cool because this is gonna be my first year voting. I just turned 20, so I haven't done a presidential election. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity because now I have this commission and I have the election to kind of market. So it was gradual, but now that I did it, I'm really happy that I have that to look back on and to be a part of. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh, coming into the election with a big bang.
I know, I'm excited.
That's so exciting. And so did you, when you were doing your research for this, did you know about these folks, or did you do, like, maybe you knew about some of them, but not others?
Honestly, I only knew a couple. I only knew Marsha P. Johnson. That was probably one of the bigger ones that I knew. Some of them I'd never heard of until like, especially when me and my parents went down to look at it, and they were like, oh, this person. I didn't even know some of them were from Nebraska until I like looked further. So that was cool too. I got to learn something from it as well as just drawing it. So yeah.
Cool. So did you choose these folks, or how did you guys?
I was given them. So otherwise I wouldn't have even known half of these people existed. So it was really cool that I got the opportunity to learn as well as be a part of it. But I was given the list of it. And so I got to like look up some of them that I'd never heard of.
That's beautiful. What did you learn? Like, what surprised you when you were going through this? I know you kind of mentioned the local folks who were on the list, but what kind of like sat where you're like, whoa, wasn't expecting to maybe learn this bit of information?
I just didn't know, like, there was just so much diversity in the group. And I think that's what I really enjoyed the most. And I just didn't, like, you don't hear about women as much as you do about men, especially in like a political sphere. So now, I guess in 2020, we're starting to hear of more, but I just loved seeing women in this position and learning more about them, because just thinking back in like history classes in high school and even in college, we don't talk about women much. So I learned a lot about that and how they've been integrated into politics for a long time. But we don't get to see it as much. So I liked seeing the representation and a lot of diversity in the group too.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that. Why do you think it's important to focus on Black and Brown femme folks and really focus on that diversity rather than just like women?
I think it's important just because, especially with everything going on, I don't think people of color get as much airtime. I don't think you learn much about them. Like I said before, in history classes in high school, you learn about maybe the civil rights movement, but you don't learn about, like, you learn about Harriet Tubman, MLK, and they're very important, but you don't get to dive deep into different ethnicities. And I think it's really important, especially in politics, that different races, different nationalities, different backgrounds are represented. Not just women, but just people of color in general. You don't get to hear from them a lot. So I think it's really important that their voices are heard. In Nebraska, just the environment I was raised, I didn't see a lot of diversity. So to see that there was women of color in Nebraska that have done big things was really cool. And I might not be in a political field, I make art, which could be, but it just inspired me that like I can do big things even in Nebraska. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm in Nebraska, I'm not in the East Coast or the West Coast, those bigger states that you hear stuff. So I think it's really cool to see people do big things that are women that are of color in Nebraska. And I think it's important that more people see that because representation is really important.
Yes, and now you get to be one of those women here. Art is totally part of the change.
Yes.
Like that's one of the reasons that I love, like there's there's always an artist a part of every Nite Caps conversation, because I'm just like, they look out at problems creatively, and we need more people addressing like problems that are happening in a creative way, because if current systems or processes aren't currently working for us, we have to like brainstorm how we can like fix it.
Exactly. I didn't even realize, honestly, until like the Black Lives Matter movement. I've seen political art, but a lot of times in school and stuff, they focus on like political cartoons and stuff like that, that type of art. And so during like Black Lives Matter, I like dove into making more like political art, like graphic design is what I do. So I got to see other artists do that, and I haven't seen art like that really as much. So it was really cool to be able to do some of that myself.
How do you think that this project has affected who you are as a person or as an artist, and if it like changed any kind of like deep roots to you, who you are and who you want to be?
I think it's just reminding me that like there's a lot of opportunity out there. Sometimes being still in college, like I'm only a sophomore, so sometimes I feel like I'm not qualified for certain things yet because I don't have like that title of like got my bachelor's. So sometimes I don't feel like I can do that. But I think this reminded me that like, it's so obvious, but like any age can be an amazing artist. There's amazing artists that are like under the age of 10. So I think this just reminded me that there's a lot of opportunities and it's only the beginning, and I don't have to have everything sorted out. I'm only 20. We got lots of time to make art.
I feel that same way, and I'm 25 and I do have a degree, and I'm still like, I don't think I'm qualified to do this. It's also like being a brown and black woman in Nebraska too, is like you said, like I didn't see a lot of brown women in the spaces that I wanted to take space in.
Growing up, I saw a lot of male artists, which is nothing wrong with that. But then as I got older, I saw female artists, and then on my Instagram, I started to follow like women who were like of color that were artists. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of them actually. And it's so cool.
Representation is so important.
It really is.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to have this next part be a group discussion with everybody. If you guys, if the rest of you are open to chatting a little bit. I wanted to first ask, how do you guys see the arts' role in politics or progress, or wherever you think we as a democracy is going? What's arts' role? I see arts' role as really pivotal because the way that the youth and young voters are accessing their information is all on social media. And so graphic artists like you, Avery, is so important because people, like my little sister, she's 18, and she'll repost these graphic arts that provide information that you probably won't go search out on an NPR podcast. And so if art and knowledge is presented as art, I think that can just have bring access to that information.
Yeah, I was gonna say similar, actually the exact same thing. And I think that sometimes the big words that people use with politics, like I don't even understand half of it. I'm just learning about it. It's hard to digest, and there's a lot to understand in politics, and it takes a lot of time, and I think sometimes we don't have that time. So I think art is a really good way to visually present it. And I agree, like on social media, me and all my friends have done the same thing where it's like on my Insta story, oh, look at this infographic, super good information, and it's so easy to read because it's all in little tidbits, or it's in fun colors, it's eye-catching, and it's more than just like a document that you're reading, or like a New York Times article, or whatever it is, So I think that is very useful for politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's like exactly what I was going to say too. It's just like the accessibility of it all, how I feel like it's made to be more complicated than it is, and unattainable to be involved in politics. But I think it's actually so much more impactful as artists, and young artists especially too, to kind of like create something that can feel like we're in this together type of thing that's really empowering.
Yeah. Vivian, which piece was yours that you created?
Mine was just a regular portrait, like with the yellow background.
The yellow background. I don't know if I have it pulled up, but I will have to go back. So what inspired you to create that art?
So I visited, I don't remember if it was last summer or the summer before that, but I visited a Native American reservation. So, and then once I saw her in the book, and then she was local too, so that just helped it.
Sorry. No, that's all right. Mara, tell us about the piece that you did, and what was your inspiration behind it?
I just like I don't like how men and women get treated differently, in that I liked how they were, I liked how they were fighting for what they thought was right. And then I just decided to draw some of the women that I thought were very inspirational.
What kind of inspiration did you get from the women that you drew?
Very give to be brave, and that you were smart and artistic and creative in your own way.
You are absolutely right that you were all of those things. And then Maria?
Yeah.
Hi, can you tell me a little bit? I can't really tell, it's kind of in the background here, a little bit about your piece, but can you kind of explain what you used for your artwork?
I took a bunch of newspapers from like 2 weeks before we did the project and cut out several of the political headlines and the articles that were attached to them and glued them down. I made sure that they were like all political because I didn't want things that weren't a part of like voting in them. And then I painted vote for our youth tomorrow so that because kids know what they want, but they can't vote yet.
How do you think that we should get youth more involved in the process?
I I don't think it's necessarily like voting, like lowering the voting age, but I do think that I don't know exactly how, but I do think there should be some way that kids can have some sort of say in who gets to be in office.
Mm.
And I don't know how to like describe how I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's a big problem to tackle, but it is important, and I think that like one big part of it is just education. Like that's one of the big things that I see really impacting the way youth know about even how to get involved. That can kind of be challenging, but it's a big thing to take on, and I think that all of you being willing to be a part of this project and to learn about your own history and why it's important for young folks to be involved in the process, even if you're not old enough to vote. But then, of course, getting yourself registered once you are of age. But
To add from the parent perspective, how awesome this project like really was. Sorry, my allergies are horrible. But how awesome this project was, and to watch the process, and I saw everybody else's pictures like when we hung up, and they're absolutely amazing, because I think art's very important, because what you remember is you remember an image. Words sometimes get jumbled together, but when you see an image, especially political, positive or negative, you remember that. And if you remember that, you're most likely to go and research that and learn from that, good or bad. And like as a parent going through there, I mean, I'm 42 and I'm white, and I grew up in a small town. And you know what? We didn't learn about a single one of these people in this book, these women that were in this book. I think I enjoyed it just as much as Mara did because we read it together. But I didn't know about any of this stuff. So like I'm texting my friends, I'm like, did you know this? And like my best friend, we graduated together, and she's like, I didn't learn any of this. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one that didn't pay attention. I mean, these women are not taught in our schools, especially in a white middle-class school where I grew up in a small town. We learned about the Civil War. We learned about a week about civil rights, and you learned about a few important men. That like diving into this, it was very important that I started doing my own research and started recommending the book to other people. So like as a parent, this project was really important and super neat to be able to be a part of, to watch like her learn, and I got to learn with her for once instead of relearning fractions like what I'm trying to do with homeschool. This was actually something I enjoyed.
I think for me, something that's really important right now, it might be obvious, but just like the whole Black Lives Matter movement and how that's being handled is really important. I got really involved with that this summer with protests and stuff. So I'm really devoted to educating on that, especially people I went to high school with that don't really know much about that.
I was going to say, also the Black Lives Matter movement, everything that's come up since then, and obviously way before then, and just figuring out how I can be the best ally and supporter in that movement. Also environmental justice and reproductive rights.
For me, one of the things that I'm trying to focus on is mental health accessibility and what that looks like, because politicians don't really talk about that. And so if nobody's talking about it, there's not a lot of policy work being done around mental health access. And especially right now during a pandemic, we really, really need that. So that is a really big thing for me. And again, environmental justice all over the world, but then also here in our city, what do parks look like, and bike lanes, and how it can affect us here at a local level.
I would say for me, mental health, being a social worker and a mental health individual, and reproductive rights is huge, as well as equality for, marriage and everything. And of course, Black Lives Matter, and immigration is huge. Making sure that we can, open up our doors and welcome people, and all the falsehoods that go with that, and educating people.
Brilliant. How about you, Vivian?
Mostly the Black Lives Matter movement.
Marisha?
Just like healthcare in general, like for all people, because I just think the healthcare system is very unfair.
About how they're fighting for immigration because a lot of my friends, family members have gone through that. But the Black Lives Matter movement, and then how like people are raising money for like all the stuff that are happening with the fires, and then people who are getting to vote.
So like you mean by the equal, like making sure that everyone has the rights to vote and equal access to it.
Well, thanks everyone. It was really nice to meet those of you I haven't met yet. This was like, this project was also like really super well received by the community. I've been down a few times to look at it, and it's on the nicer days, it was getting some views in the window, and I think it's just been really awesome for us and for the community. So it's cool to hear the backstories a little bit.
Thank you guys so much for sharing some time with us tonight and offering up your talents and gifts to hopefully create change and inspire people to vote. I think it's so, so beautiful.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful evening. I'm glad you could be a part of this.
Thank you.
Be in
Thank you.
Bye-bye.